Much like bumper stickers to a Subaru Outback, are tasty licks to the key of G. One cannot exist without the other. So today we're going to talk about seeing the entire fretboard down just the D and G strings and how you can incorporate all the notes in the people's key, the key of G, to the chords in the key of G. Alright, so today's video is sponsored by Elixir Strings. That's why these licks are going to sound so good, because I got some elixirs on my Taylor guitar right here. Definitely get yourself elixirs with the affiliate link in the description, because your guitar is going to sound that much better. It's going to be way easier on your fingers. You're going to be able to slide through those licks. Okay? So, the people's key is the key of G. It's just the best key. I don't have to explain myself why G is the people's key. It just is. Now, if you saw a video that got kind of popular a month ago, it was about seeing a pattern that repeats that you can always use in this key on the B and the E string, right? It looks like this. If we do 3 notes at a time, it would start here, 3rd fret on the B string, 5th fret, 7th fret, and then it's the exact same thing on the high E string. Then we would just take the exact same shape, like a note, a whole step, and a whole step, but then start on the 8th fret, and then bring it down into here. Okay, so now that's great for lead playing, but what's cool is you can do that same pattern on the 2 middle strings, the D and the G string, and that lines up perfect to play around in between the chords or in addition to the chords. Alright, so first of all, let's just learn the first 3 notes per string in the key of G, which are just the notes G, A, B, C, D, E, and F sharp. So if you're on the D string, it would be open, 2, 4. D, E, F sharp. Now if you use 2 fingers like this, open, pointer finger, ring finger, or if that's too much of a reach, maybe use your pinky, and then do the same thing on the G string. So we've got D, E, F sharp, G, A, B. Helps to know the names, the notes, but again, not totally necessary, because really we're just building a pattern of muscle memory that you can always go to. Alright? So, just these 6 notes right there, you can do a lot of different things with, right? So let's say you have a G major chord. Something like that, right? That just comes from knowing that the D string available notes to you in this key are open, 2, and 4. What I did there is I struck the root note of the chord of G, 1, 2, and 3, 4. And then maybe I just did like a hammer on, open, 2, G string, and then slid into that 4th fret. And again, however you want to explore just these 6 notes, forward and backward, it's all fair game in this key, alright? Do the same thing. Okay, that was all just exploring in between the chord, alright? Now, I think the real value in this is seeing these as a symmetrical shape that runs all along the D and G string from open D and G to the octave D and G, 12th fret, okay? So, let's learn them real quick. The beautiful thing about thinking in intervals across one string is it works for any key, right? An interval is just a space between 2 notes. To get the major scale, it's whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So 2 wholes and a half, then 3 wholes and a half. All right? A whole step being 2 frets, half step being 1 fret. So memorize that pattern, then you know all the notes. So if G is our open string, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. All right? Easy enough to, say in a row, but you really want to burn this into your mind's eye, where you can kind of jump into any of these spots, right? I think a cheat sheet type deal is like, okay, well, all the odd numbered fret markers, open, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9. Maybe that's like a hot spot that kind of lights up right there. Now, the utility of just knowing those 3 notes this far away from an open chord might not be something that makes a lot of sense practically, right? You could be playing around in the key of G. It's like, okay, that was all correct. I personally felt that sounded a little disconnected, right? Because it's like, I've got a chord, and then I'm doing something. right? So to me, that's not like a musical way to use this kind of information. That's why it's really, really helpful to have the string below it and know the exact same scale, which is really basically the same intervals, right? Remember I said whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half gives you the major scale. Well, in the fifth degree, the fifth note in any key, the intervallic formula, there's your $10 word. You won't see that phrase on a Subaru Outback. No hate on the Subaru Outbacks, it's just they always have bumper stickers. Like the thing that spurred that intro joke is like I was behind two of them, and they were both just like riddled in bumper stickers. God bless them. Right? So the major scale, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. If you start on the fifth note in any key, G, A, B, C, D, again, the D string, it would be whole, whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole. So the only difference between those two is that last interval, right? In the key of G, it's just one fret behind, G to F sharp. And again, D's spot in the key of G, it's D to C. Otherwise, it's exactly the same. And the beautiful thing about this is because they're right next to each other, we can kind of rip off a lot of stuff because it's symmetrical. Open 2-4, open 2-4. 4-5-7, 4-5-7. 5-7-9, 5-7-9. 7-9, 10, 7-9, 11, 12, and 12. Okay, so that's the only thing you have to remember as far as the difference. Or maybe just don't remember it and just skip this spot and then just go right from 9 to 9 to 12 and 12, right? So now let's add 5, 7, 9 on the D string to 5, 7, 9 on the G string and jump around between that G chord. G, I'll say in open position. And then just having that little buddy system, right? Like two Subarus going for a hike in the Colorado mountains. Why am I going so hard on Subaru? I feel like one day I'm gonna end up with a Subaru. Anyway, little buddy system going on that hike. You can double stop through it with one finger. I think what's cool is in these chord shapes, like let's say E minor, the natural minor, you end up with those fingers that are right next to each other. You could really run those together. And see, now you have like really kind of useful double stops that you can add in between any chords, right? Doesn't have to just be a G chord. It could be any chord in the key of G. There are 7 main chords in the key of G. G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, F sharp, half diminished, and G. We're going to do some more exercises on this on my Patreon. I'm uploading a Patreon video at the same time as this lesson. So check out the Patreon if you want to like really get everything in order. Your very first guitar lesson to as intermediate or advanced as you want to get, hundreds of lessons over on the Patreon, and it's super cheap, and you can just do it for a month, get what you need, and hit it and quit it. Then just get in your Subaru and drive away into the sunset. Know what I'm saying? So, we're going to have some exercises on the Patreon. I'll link you to that too. But first, get yourself some elixir strings, because the Patreon won't work if you don't have elixir strings. But yeah, we can double stop. I confused myself there for a second. In between chords. So maybe I want to work my way into some more interesting chord voicings. One thing that I've been a big proponent of are minor 11 chords, all right? They're super easy to play. They're not bar chords, but they're even better, right? So remember I said G major, A minor, B minor. I actually think going from a G here to an A here to a B minor bar chord is more difficult than going to a G major to an A minor 11 to a B minor 11. Okay, so this shape right here already has that double stop built into it. So for the A minor 11, I've got my middle finger on the A on the E string, the 5th fret. Skipping the A string. You can play it open if you want, but I'm just gonna kind of mute it with my middle finger. And then my ring finger and my pinky have that double stop on the 5th fret, which we already talked about. And then my pointer finger is bringing up the rear end with that D note right there. Okay? You can slide this 2 frets higher to get B minor 11. So this is the 1 chord in the key of G. There's the 2 chord. 3 chord, back to the 2 chord. Now I can use what I know about those double stops of these all being connected together up until that spot to maybe spice it up a little bit. G, into A minor, B, A. A minor. Alright, and that all comes from just really one intervallic formula and one slight alteration of it. D's spot in the key of G is the same thing but with a flat 7. All that means is that 7th interval, whole, half is flattened, which makes it whole, half, whole, to get back to the root note. And again, it makes a lot of sense when you do it in one string. Another way to do it would be maybe start on the D on the E string, and then, you could be like, all right, whole, half, whole, half, whole. And that becomes more of like a Mixolydian shape that a lot of people are, familiar with. Again, there's different ways of learning the exact same thing. Personally, I've always thought there's more utility in kind of seeing them in a linear way, and then maybe being able to do something in that vein, right? Last thing I want to do is turn this into an actionable exercise just across these 2 strings, right? So I think that's the best way to really burn into your muscle memory and just your mind's eye how these shapes work. We did the same thing on the higher strings in that video. I'll link you to that video too because it's a similar concept, but it's kind of like a different execution of it. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to start with those 6 notes, right? But we're going to make it a little bit more musical. See, it sounds a little bit different than bum ba dum ba dum. But make it a little song. Then we're going to go we're going to shift 1 note higher, then we're going to go into the next spot, right? So instead of thinking linearly, now we're kind of thinking of the shape and then just advancing forward through it, still with 6 notes at a time, and then just kind of inching up 1 spot closer. Which again, that's why the double stops help, because you kind of know what the next target location is, right? So the first one is open 2 4, open 2 4, 2 4 5, 2 4 5, 4 5 7, 4 5 7, 5 7 9, 5 7 9, 7 9 10, 7 9 11, 9 10 12, 9 11 12. Okay? So, do that as slow or as fast as you need to. Then you can do the inverse. Nobody ever likes doing it backwards, but doing it backwards is what's going to help you out more than anything. What would a Subaru be if you couldn't drive it in reverse? You get stuck real quick in a lot of those off-roading expeditions because you have the spirit of adventure. Get yourself a Subaru Outback or a Forester. Same difference, right? You can still sport the bumper stickers on a Forester. Oh, flubbed that one. Then back to the open position. Okay? So, I really think that doing this just a couple times every day as an actionable exercise will solidify in your mind's eye the hot points on each one of these. Double stops. Then just running through them. The nice thing about doing them in pairs like this is I think that over time you might start branching off forward to kind of like, all right, I've got this little road map to kind of get me started. But then eventually you kind of bust out of it. And I think you hear a lot of that in people soloing and stuff like that. Even though this lesson isn't really about soloing, it's about just kind of like doing things that you can always find. Find some fun. You know what I mean? Because life is about adventure. I don't even need to say it. I feel like I want to apologize to Elixir Strings because I've been shouting out Subaru Outbacks more than the actual sponsor of this video. But we don't need to apologize for strings. Just get yourself some Elixir strings. I rock the nano webs on this one. These are actually the 8020 bronze polywebs. This is going to be the next fresh set that's on here. I've been excited to try these. I have not put the polywebs on this guitar yet, so I'm excited to kind of see how that rocks. This is a Taylor 814 Builder's Edition, by the way. I'll link you to this too, in case you're interested also. So, get yourself some strings. Get yourself a Subaru Outback. Sign up for the Patreon. And if you have any questions or comments, hit me in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website. I'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks a lot.